sir. Thank you. I stand before you today to speak about the transformational power of mentorship, something that has been changing my life as well as has been transforming every aspect of my learning process and has taken me to some interesting places in life. Growing up in El Salvador, I come from a very challenging background. At the time when I was growing up, our country was going through so many challenges, political challenges, financial challenges, as well as for many years, we were ranked number one as one of the most countries with the highest crime rates in the world. During those years, I realized that self-development, self-improvement was necessary to change my situation as well as the situation of my family, my parents, my brothers, and everyone around me. So I decided to start thinking about ways that I could leave that behind and get into a better place in life where I can not only learn, become a better individual, but at the same time, help my family get out of that situation. I had a few options. Some of those options were, well, maybe I can move to another country. But then I thought, well, I was actually born in the United States. Why don't I just move to the United States? I'm a US citizen, so I have a different path than most people. At the time, I speak zero English. I literally only know how to say kitchen. And sometimes I will not say kitchen, I will say chicken. So I was nervous. I was 17 years old and I was done with the situation. Felt like a prisoner in my own house, in my own country. The decision came out. I talked to my parents and I say, I have to go. I have to get out of here. Doesn't matter what it takes. One day after I turned 17, this was January 15th, 2004. Got in the airplane and I told my family goodbye. During my first couple of years in the United States, I did construction work. And that's when I first met the first mentor that actually changed my life. His name is Mr. Alejandro. I met Mr. Alejandro working on a construction project at his house. I was holding a chisel while my coworker was hammering with a flange hammer, trying to break a piece of concrete. I did not realize how dumb I was. I will never do that ever again. But somehow at the time I was brave. I don't know if I was naively brave, but if he would have missed by an inch hitting that chisel, I would have probably broken both of my hands. Luckily, Mr. Alejandro was a gardener, so he was working in his garden. He screamed and said, "Paren!" which in Spanish means stop. Do not continue that. He immediately called the construction company owner and asked to get the proper equipment to break the concrete. That was the beginning of a long-term, not only friendship, but also that was who I consider a mentor that changed my life. Mr. Alejandro, after the day of work, he said, "I want to have a word with you. Like, what are you doing here? Like, why were you doing that also?" I started explaining a little bit of my background. I said, well, this is a job and you have to get the job done. That was my mindset at the time. And he then developed a curiosity to find out more about what I wanted to do. I was a construction worker, but I also was a construction worker with a lot of goals, a lot of vision. He then said, How about we sit down, we talk a little bit more about those goals. Let's start putting them together. Let's start grinding them down. I didn't know what that was. I knew there was something bigger ahead of me. I just didn't know how. We then started working on creating a resume, which I didn't know what it was. In Spanish, we say curriculum vitae, which is you essentially explain your background. It's a resume, pretty much. Then he helped me apply for colleges. I said, I thought college was expensive. It's impossible. I cannot afford that. I'm a construction worker making $10 an hour. Well, maybe less at the time. We start filling applications and the blessings start coming. I left the construction work and got into a better position, into the finance space. I started going to college. That completely changed my life. Years went by, and I started bringing my family to the United States. This happened in Washington, D.C. And during those years, I was learning so much. It was fascinating. So I didn't know that was possible. Then, when my parents arrived, the next question was, where do I put my parents? I live in a 2-bedroom basement. Where do I put them? It's five of us already. I went to Mr. Alejandro and I said, how can I accommodate my family? He then said, have you thought about buying a house? I was 22, 23 years old at the time. I had no idea how to do that. I say, I don't even have 20% down. That was my thought process at the time. He started asking more questions. Next thing you know, I was buying my first house at 23. It was a blessing. My parents were so happy. They were like, oh my God, we couldn't even afford a house back in El Salvador. And here you are in the United States buying a house at 23. Years went by, and he became not only my mentor, a good friend, but at the same time, he completely transformed my life. There was a second situation in my life, something that transformed my life completely, and that was my second mentor. His name is Rich. I met Rich during a time where I was taking on a new professional challenge, a new opportunity in the finance world. I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. I did all the training, everything possible to make sure that I was able to execute the job properly. However, things were not working my way. I saw in the meetings a name, Richard, coming number one in every aspect of the charts. Richard had the same resources I had the same training I had, but clearly he had something that I did not have because the results were not showing. I called him, and then in a very kind way, he said, come to my office, let's talk. We maybe talked 15 minutes about work-related stuff. The remaining was talking about life and mindset. That situation completely transformed my life and took my career into another level. That's what got me to California, because years later, he took an opportunity here and he took me under his belt and I was able to move here. Many people ask me, why do you leave Washington, D.C.? You had your family, you had everything there. Why? I say, because life is full of adventures. And this adventure has been the most, I would say, transformative adventure in the world. And I'm so blessed to be able to have mentors in my life that have been able to put me into the right positions, to be able to learn and continue learning. And I'm curious to know what's next, because life is full of challenges, but at the same time, opportunities to grow and learn. And mentorship, in this case, for a lot of people, those are maybe teachers. Those people sometimes put you in the right directions. And that has been transformative for me. Coming from a challenged country and now being in a position where I can grow, I have all the knowledge, all the people I want to help, has completely inspired me. And I would say, I hope at some point in my life I can mentor somebody. I would say that would be one of the most rewarding things that I can do for somebody else, to give back. Because I only mentioned two mentors, two people in my life that have completely changed my life, but there's so many. I cannot count it with my hands. Thank you.